Let's welcome in our guy, Tom Murphy, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, Whole Hog Sports. Tom, the football topic, not just fall camp, but leading off a lot of the content yesterday. Arkansas checks in at number 23 in the coaches poll, directly behind Cincinnati. Your thought on where the coaches rank the Razorbacks heading into this season?
Morning, guys. Always a pleasure to be on the show. I would say that's in the realm of where they probably belong, and we know that rankings are largely based on how you finished last year, how many people you got back, and when you bring back, say, the number of guys Arkansas does on the offensive line and on defense, KJ Jefferson, then this makes total sense. I've got them ranked a little higher in my AP ballot, which I believe comes out next Monday, and perhaps they'll be a little higher there, but we've seen the gamut. I mean, we've seen them in preseason magazines, maybe down in the low teens, around 12, 13, something like that, up to about 23. So they're probably a little higher in this poll, or I guess you consider it lower in this poll than they are in some. But you're going to get all kind of predictions. They've got a really, really tough schedule. And so I don't look at this poll as being where people think they'll wind up the year or anything like that. Just kind of it is what it is, preseason.
So when you look at the rest of this coaches poll, Tom, not just in the SEC but outside of it as well, what else kind of jumped off the page to you?
I mean, I didn't go scouring it, team by team, but I did notice that BYU was unranked, and I think they probably deserve to be ranked based on the way they played last year and how much returning talent they have. Texas is way up. Schools like Texas and Notre Dame, they always get some kind of nod or recognition, maybe beyond where they've earned. And so I think Notre Dame might be 5 in this poll, and Texas is maybe in the teens. And they were a bad team at the end of last year. But people think you're recruiting well and they get all the hype. But anyway, other than that, it's just observation. I mean, the SEC West, LSU and Auburn are right out of the poll, and Ole Miss is down in the 20s as well. So I think that's right. Mm-hmm. So it's almost as if the SEC West isn't really probably getting its due, what it deserves, although Alabama's number 1 and A&M's in the top 10 as well.
Yeah, and then there's a large gap between, like you said, the other SEC teams. I think there's 7 total, but you've got Kentucky, you've got Arkansas, you got Ole Miss that all are between 20 and 25. What stood out to me, Cincinnati right next door to you at 22 in the poll, Arkansas at 23. So we know there's a top 25 matchup for game 1, which isn't surprising. But, Tom, it's a loser-leave town matchup for staying in the poll. Every fan base takes pride in this. That adds a little more intrigue or a little more urgency or a little more just interesting quality to this game. One of these teams is going to fall out of the poll. One may move inside the top 20 in 25 days.
Yeah, no question about it. And I think that's a great way for Arkansas to start with a ranked opponent, a team that had been in the college football playoff last year. I feel fairly certain that Cincinnati will be in the top 25 as well. They're in my poll. And even though they lost a lot of guys to the draft, they do have their O-line back, and, they did well in the portal. So Luke Fickell, he's been acquainted with winning programs with a good plan in place, and I don't doubt that they're going to be a tough out for the Razorbacks in game 1. So it's going to be a great matchup, two ranked teams, and there's going to be a lot of hype around the game.
Yeah. LSU just outside of the poll, as you were talking about a minute ago. Also BYU, who's on Arkansas' schedule, we should mention, just outside of the poll receiving votes. Are you surprised LSU didn't get ranked? And then we were looking at their schedule. Tom, they've got to go 8 games in till they find Ole Miss on their schedule before they find a ranked opponent based on the preseason numbers. I know a lot will change, but LSU, if the polls are right, could run up some wins before they run into the last 4 or 5 games where they find some ranked teams.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. And it's, again, I think the SEC West was undervalued in this poll. But, LSU, it's not surprising to me they're out of the poll because they have such little returning talent. It shocked me when I looked it up. I think they've got 3 starters back on both sides of the ball. They might end up with some kind of a quarterback deal going on between Brandon and Daniels, because I think they're different kinds of quarterbacks. And if they lose a game early on, who knows? It could go south. Look, I don't doubt that Brian Kelly knows how to build a winner. But I don't have a problem with him being right outside the top 25. And, Arkansas, generally, when polls come out, we'll see them having 5 or 6 ranked opponents. When they play, say, Florida, Georgia from the other side, those teams are usually always ranked. So it was really weird to see only, I think, 3. But in my view, BYU's a top 25 team, and Auburn, there's a chance they will be as well. I don't think they deserve to be in it because they had a losing record. But, it's just a little weird, that Mississippi State's not in there. And so Arkansas winds up with 3 ranked opponents, I believe is correct.
Tom, a lot of fall camp news that has been coming out. Dominique Bowman speaking with the media last night. I think it was Hudson Clark and Malik Chavis as well. Kind of, what have you seen out of that secondary in the little that you've gotten to watch to this point?
Well, not a whole lot. I mean, I think it's neat that Malik Chavis has gone from a kid who, a double-A school, and he kind of bounced around, I guess you could say, at safety, and you're one of those guys you wonder, is he ever going to get real playing time? But, he had a pick last year, I think in the UAPB game, and he's just kind of come on, and you like to see that, a kid who stays with it. And he's a long, angular guy, and he's fast. And if he can play cornerback for them and do well in man coverage, which I think we're going to see a little more of this year, then they got themselves a good corner. I mean, Dominic Bowman said yesterday, I think he could be a pro. And so I think pass coverage is going to be one of the biggest, the pass pressure and then coverage is going to be one of the biggest question marks on this team. If they can do it really well, then I think they're going to win a lot of the swing games. And by the way, I think their schedule is just loaded with swing games. There's plenty of personnel back there, guys who played. When you talk about Clark and Bishop and Chavis and McLaughlin, the transfer from LSU, Kari Johnson has played before. They like Keon Parker. That's your top 6 at corners. And then Nichols, you got Slusher. You got Ja'Cory Turner, who's been out, who's been improving. Trent Gordon, by the way, who's been banged up. I think we're going to see more of him this year. Jaden Johnson has played nickel, and now he's a safety. I mean, there's a lot of guys with playing time in that secondary, and I think that this is kind of what they've been building for is a mix and match. Use different types of personnel secondary, and I think Barry Odom's, pretty close to having good, really good numbers and good talent back there.
I got asked last night by a Morning Rush listener about the confidence in the defense this year, and even if you have a good back end, even if you have good linebackers, you've still got to be able to get pressure up front. And we've heard from Sam Pittman, him talking about just that would be probably the biggest question mark on the team. That is the defensive line. As we've entered fall camp as well as asking about the secondary, what have your thoughts early on been on what they've been able to do as far as getting pressure from the few times you've gotten to watch them?
Yeah, well, we really haven't seen anything the fastball starts there's 4 plays for each unit. So it's not like we're seeing a ton. Yeah. What we saw in the spring, however, they were getting pressure. Now, they were sending linebackers. Drew Sanders is a guy that we think is going to be an edge guy that can rush. And I think they're going to be able to send their nickels some. Like, I think Miles Slusher is going to be a guy who blitzes some. And I think they realize that the traditional, defensive ends and a little bit of help from the defensive interior on pressuring the quarterback, they're going to have to do a little more than that. And Cam Ball being out for a while now, after leaving Sunday's practice, in addition to the fact you're without Torian Carter for a good while, that hurts him up front. I mean, you're talking about Isaiah Nichols and then really a bunch of younger guys. And I mean, I think that means we're going to end up seeing Eric Gregory inside a lot more.
Yeah.
So I'm giving you a kind of a long-winded answer, but I do believe pass rush is going to be something that they know is important, and they're going to have to mix up their talent and personnel on who they pressure with.
Yeah, because wasn't it Isaiah Nichols that Sam Pittman was talking about last Friday that there was a pretty large gap between him and those behind him and at that interior line? So I believe that was Nichols who he was directly addressing. So, and like I said, with Carter out, they got a ways to go. Maybe Terry Hampton can step in. Saturdays are so huge in camp time. Because that's where I think a lot of these position battles are won. I know the first one's Saturday, and that won't pencil or that won't put anybody in ink up on the board. But is there a position battle or two if we were able to watch the scrimmage, you think we would circle in on more that you think are the best battles for a starting job right now?
Yeah, as I think through this, I think cornerback, well, Darius Bishop has been a starter, and we saw him, Jaden Wilson get by him and score a touchdown from Hornsby early on. Can he get up there and challenge either Chavis or Clark for a starting job? And what about McLaughlin? So they're at least 4 deep with guys they can. I hope that they can trust at corner. The receivers, even though we think Keytron, Jaden Hazelwood, and Matt Landers are going to be, 3 big, go-to guys, and they're all tall. Can Satania or Jaden Wilson or Bryce Stevens or Jaqueline Crawford push into, the group that's going to travel? Running back, I think they're pretty settled with Rocket at number 1, but behind him, between Dubinion and Green, and it looks like Javion Hunt's made a move in recent days. They're going to have kind of a battle. And then, right tackle, Tykeus Crawford earn playing time with Dalton Wagner, possibly unseat him, that kind of thing. And otherwise, there's a lot of positions on this team that the talent, like Knox at tight end. I don't think Hornsby's going to really push for a starting job, but from what we've seen, he's better. He's more accurate. And Sam Pittman pointed out earlier in camp, he knows when to take a little off some passes. He's thrown fastballs that were too close to guys, uncatchable in previously. So maybe he earns himself a package in a game and playing wide out. And then, places like safety, they've got veteran guys back there like Catalan and Blair and Jaden Johnson and some others that we expect to see. And I think Anthony Brown, the freshman, is probably going to break into that mix. So a lot of returning talent, and I don't think there's a ton of, really hot position battles.
Yep. So let's talk about tight ends for a minute, because Dow Loggins talked the other night. I didn't get to hear the whole thing, but Sam Pittman addressed tight ends the other day, and it didn't sound like there's the level of competition behind Trey Knox that they would like. Is that an accurate way of describing where they're at right now with tight ends?
Well, Sam Pittman thinks they've got plenty of it. And by the way, quick shout out. I like the way they've structured the media availability. I don't like that we don't get to see more practice. But Kyle Parkinson has done a good job of bringing in like position groups, and then you can really focus on that group, and kind of go hit hardcore on that group for a day or two, and then you got another group coming in, and then another group, and all these position coaches being available. Not a lot of schools make every position coach available, so I do like that. I wish we got the coordinators more. I've said that ad nauseum on this air. But it is what it is. We will get Barry Odom and Kendall Briles and Scott Fountain later in camp. But I think they're okay at tight end. I think Bax, even though he's kind of the blocking tight end, we've seen him show good hands. He had a couple of passes in fastballs a couple of days ago. Hudson Henry, he came out as a big-time talent, and he hasn't lived up to that yet. Is he ready to do that this year? Maybe so. And I think they really like Ty Washington. Trey Knox called him. We had a note on this today. He's going to be a problem. And so there's your four deep right there. And I think Aaron Outley and some other guys might wind up contributing. But then you got the big tight end class coming in behind that. I think they're pretty well set at tight end for the next 3 or 4 years.
We'll leave it there, Tom. Appreciate your insight. We'll do it on Thursday at 7:20, man. Get some more fall camp updates.
That sounds great, man. Love talking about camp. See y'all.
All right, Tom Murphy with us here.
Online is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports, contests, and events with first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information, from live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to join today and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50 to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's BELIEVE, BLEAV 50. That's BELIEVE, BLEAV 50. Bet online, where the game starts.